All right, y'all, there's just way too much noise coming out of the Giants' Week 1 loss to the Commanders, so we got to revisit some of those storylines. And, of course, we're going to look ahead of their season with Ross Tucker of the Ross Tucker Podcast and co-founder of Future Fans Football. Ross T, man, what's going on, bro? Glad we got to connect.
Yeah, Brandon, I'm glad we're getting to connect as well. So proud of you, man. You look awesome. You're doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
All right, appreciate it. All right, let's revisit some of this Giants stuff because my mind, I'm on 24 hours. I flush it, and I'm ready to go on and talk about the Cowboys. But let's revisit how the Giants offense came out flat, and they were held out of the end zone for a third straight season opener. The expectations were high, 100-plus points in this year's preseason. So what's your first impression of the 2025 New York Giants?
I guess, unfortunately, more of the same, Brandon. You know, I see all the optimism coming out of the preseason, and like a lot of people, I was highly encouraged by what I saw from Jackson Dart, and I do think the defensive line is going to be ferocious, and they did some good things, certainly, in that game against the Commanders. But offensively, seemed like the same type of team, right? I mean, offensive line left a lot to be desired, couldn't really run it very effectively. Passing game was disappointing. If you're already to the point where people are asking Daboll whether or not Russell Wilson going to start week 2, he doesn't really answer it. Then he says he intends to, all that stuff. Probably not a great sign. It does seem like he should give it a few weeks at least, but probably going to be Jackson Dart's team sooner rather than later, which then makes it even more interesting that they signed Wilson, gave him the money that they did, and went about the process the way they did.
So because when I went back and watched the tape, and when I watched that game, it was hard for me. It's hard for me to be like, okay, Jackson Dart could have done better than Russell Wilson with the lack of protection that Russ had. So when Brian Daboll came out Monday and said that Russell Wilson is going to be QB1, do you feel like people are kind of overreacting, calling for Jackson Dart to be the starter this fast?
Well, so I don't think they're overreacting in the sense that, let's pretend like I'm a Giants fan, right? And I want to have hope, and I want to turn the page, and I probably don't think the team has a great chance to make the playoffs or actually be a contender. If the argument is I want to see Jackson Dart play and go through growing pains and learn and improve as much as he can, I totally get that. And I really don't blame people that would feel that way, right? I think some people think it's inevitable. So what's the old expression? That which must be done eventually must be done now. And so I understand that thought process. The flip side is, if I'm a Giants fan, I don't know that I want to put Jackson Dart out there without Andrew Thomas at left tackle, right? I might want to wait a little bit and let Russell Wilson or Jameis or somebody else play. And I know, by the way, that when they signed Russell Wilson, that they didn't know that they would definitely be able to get a guy like Jackson Dart in the draft. But I think they probably knew they were going to try to draft somebody. So that's a lot of money, man. I mean, that's over $10 million would be a lot for one game, right? So I think that they'll probably give him a couple more unless it's just that bad. But I think Daboll wants to take as many bites at the apple as he can. Quite frankly, I think that's one of the reasons why Jameis is still there. And by that I mean trying to save his job. Understandable. He wants to give Russell every chance possible to help his team be a competitive, legit contender, playoff contender. If that doesn't happen, then he'll turn to Jackson Dart and hope that Dart shows enough that the organization, the Mara family, won't want to move on from Daboll because they'll think that there's something really positive going on with Jackson Dart. So it doesn't make sense for him to more or less use that tool or go to that bullet in the gun just quite yet.
Yeah, coming out of training camp, I was telling people, I was like, Brian Daboll has the good problem of not having any quarterbacks to having too many quarterbacks. But then after coming out of week 1, I'm like, nah, that's probably a problem nobody wants to have to deal with because he is going to constantly have to answer that question of when's Jackson Dart going to be there? When's Jackson Dart going to be there? Unless Russ is protected and he can cook. So I know this is only week 1, and like you said, more of the same when it comes to this football team. But where do you think the floor is and the ceiling is for the Giants, especially with the schedule that they have?
Ooh, the floor is low, bro. The floor is low.
We're talking
3
basement?
wins, 3 or 4 wins. It's probably the floor. Ceiling feels like more like 7, maybe 8. Yeah, I think if everything goes well, like the rest of the year, maybe they can win 7 or 8 games. If things go poorly, it's probably more like 3 or 4. Which, by the way, is all the more reason for Giants fans to be calling for Jackson Dart, right? If the range is 3 to 8, why are we wasting any time with Russell Wilson? Let's let Dart get as much experience as possible. And if we lose while he's going through growing pains, well, then we just get a better draft choice anyway.
All right, well, I can't go through another 3-win season, Russ. I'm telling you, you see these gray hairs? It's not from being 40. It's from 3-win seasons. We talked about Jackson Dart being the future. Talk to us about future fans football. Like, you're the co-founder. What exactly is it, and how's it going to continue to grow the game of football to today's youth?
Well, it's funny because I met these guys. They're Bengals fans, and they cracked the code, man. I don't know, Brandon, if you have kids or whatever, but I've got a couple. It is so hard to get kids to actually sit down and watch the whole football game with you. I mean, it's not like it was, with me and my dad back in the day watching the game every Sunday after church. They don't really want to watch the game. And I think these guys are Bengals fans, and they realized that a few years ago when they couldn't get their kids to watch the Bengals as they were on that epic run to the Super Bowl, I think their kids said, we'll watch next year. Like, no, we're Bengals fans. Like, you got to watch this year. We're going to the Super Bowl. So these guys have cracked the code. They know what kids, want, right? Kids like storybooks. They like activities. They've combined those to be able to have something that enables them to really understand football. And then once they understand it, they're way more likely to sit there. I think it's like $60, futurefans.com. You're giving the gift to your child, but to be honest with you, it's really a gift to yourself to try to enjoy that 3-hour shared experience. Hey, whether it's a great win for the Giants or whether you're suffering together, the point is you're supposed to do it together. Futurefans.com.
I love it, man. I got a 2-year-old, and I'm tired of listening to Bluey or hearing Bluey in the background when there's a Giants game playing. So you had me at hello. I'm sold on it, man. Ross, thanks for hopping on with this, bro.
My pleasure. Thank you, Brandon.